Good morning, everyone. My name is Mr. Gill, and I'm just going to be talking to you a little bit about English at GCSE level. And so you've got a rough idea of what to expect when your student starts their journey into Key Stage 4. So I want to kind of get off with the basics. Lots of people get a little bit overwhelmed with the idea of the exam, and we'll get into that in a minute. But more importantly, I think understanding what's behind it and the skills, I've tried to keep it as simple as possible. And it's broken down into two real aspects. The first one is reading. This, I think, is our number one priority. Getting our young people reading regularly is going to be the cornerstone of their success at GCSE. Their ability to comprehend, to read, to understand, not just say the words, not being able to read at a primary school level, but to be able to really take information in and make decisions based on that is really important. Their idea to infer, their ability to infer and deduce certain outcomes and meanings behind certain things is also going to be hugely important. And that brings us on to analysis. And the idea of analysis is that once they've inferred something, once they've figured out what something might mean, they can really dig into why. Why has that person chosen to do that? And why would a writer decide to do a certain thing instead of something else? And that's the crux of the really high level skills that are needed at GCSE. Can you read? Can you infer? And can you push that inference through into analysing a choice that's being made? And that really proves to the examiner that you've got a solid grasp of what's going on in a text. Second half of the GCSE is split up into writing. And that is the knowledge of skills and techniques that are used. So that's the kind of revision and knowledge side of things, where you just have to know certain techniques. That then, obviously, like everything else in life, coupled with the creativity and the ideas coming from yourself, that driven motivation to create something brand new, and then that leads us on to that sophisticated use of vocabulary, sophisticated control when making your own choices, when using your own techniques. So step one, reading and looking at what techniques have been used out in the wider world from all of those impressive literary figures. Step two, taking those, using those. Are you able to blend that with your creativity and come up with a really sophisticated piece of writing? So those two halves are really what we're trying to throw forward at English GCSE. The paper is the GCSE is broken down into 2 papers for language and 2 papers for literature. So language paper 1 is explorations in creative writing. So this really is that creative side of things. Section A is the reading. They will literally just read one fiction text. They will answer a series of questions on that text, looking at the skills that we just spoke about a minute ago. And then section B is their ability and their opportunity to show their own creativity, to show their own example of the use of those skills, their control of that vocabulary, their exposure to culture, and to try and really grab the examiner in. So section A is reading, where they'll have to read and analyse. Section B is writing, where they'll have to use their knowledge to create something brand new. As you can see there, the reading is 25% of the exam, and writing is 25% of the exam. So they're both given equal weight. The reading one is shorter questions, whereas the writing is much longer questions, and this is half of their GCSE. Paper 2 is called Writers' Viewpoints and Perspectives. Again, it's split from reading into writing. The only difference being that this moves from fiction to non-fiction. So rather than being focused on the creative side of stories, this is about information delivery and communication strengths. So section A, again, is about them reading and looking at a whole different set of skills. Can they look at how people efficiently get information across? Can they look at how useful a piece of information text is and how that's created? And then they're given their opportunity to use those skills themselves and to create that piece from there. Once again, you'll see it's evenly distributed. So it's 25% for section A, 25% for section B, and overall as an exam, this is 50% of their GCSE. That brings us on to literature. So literature is a separate GCSE, and that again uses both of those skills. And it is reading, but it's reading longer texts, reading longer extracts. And in this exam, they'll be studying Shakespeare, and a 19th century novel takes up 40% of their GCSE, so slightly differently weighted. This one, paper 2, is modern text and poetry. So that is the poetry anthology and a bit of unseen poetry as well, where they'll have to show that they can use those skills without having to teach a